It's no shock that when a series uses CGI rather than traditional 2D animation, it kind of puts a stigma upon a series. But I think with great directing, a great story, and some fantastic music, it can definitely be brought above that level. And I think that's the case with Nighthead 2041, a series that aired in the summer 2021 anime season, a 12-episode series. This is my review of the series, so let's jump right into it. Nighthead 2041 takes place in a not-so-distant future, 2041 in Japan. And for a majority of the series, it follows two different perspectives, one being the Kuroki brothers, and one being the Kirihara brothers. The Kirihara brothers have been spending a majority of their life in this facility, and as they've gotten older, they've been able to escape from this facility. And after escaping, they've received this note that says that even though they have psychic powers, the world itself has grown to accept them for what they are able to do. So now leaving this facility, they go out into the world before they find out that the world doesn't actually accept their psychic ability. On the other hand, the world itself is under a strong control. Specifically, Japan itself has a strong law against any sort of talk about anything of belief, of spiritual powers, or anything of the spirit. So anything that's talking about religion, talking about psychic powers, even a manga, they keep showing Akira as being like this thing, a sign of this evil that cannot be allowed in this world. On the other side, the Kuroki brothers are actually a part of SWE. This SWE group is actually a group that goes out and snuffs out all this stuff. It's basically the law that essentially keeps a hold against society ever touching these sort of things. So if there is a religious leader out there, a cult, they will be the ones that are dispatched to go out and collect them to bring them back into custody. And slowly over time, this story will essentially have these two sibling pairs meet each other in almost this kind of viewpoint of what is right and what is wrong in this world. As you see the both sides of this coin, one being the strong arm of the law and the society that is essentially pushing against the belief in psychic powers, even though, as we know, based on the Kirihara brothers, they exist, but also the horrors that stronghold create. Additionally, as things go along, you'll soon find out there was a certain period of time where it seems like everybody has sort of lost their memories. The world as a whole has lost a time frame of the world's existence following this World War III that apparently had occurred. The mysteries behind World War III and that time gap itself all come into play as the story unfolds. So as I mentioned before, I think this is a prime example of something where at face value coming into the series, obviously the big hitch is going to be, ew, CGI, don't like CGI, turn off. But I think what I found is really early on, as I watched the first 2 episodes and on into about 4 or 5 episodes, I was really captivated by this series. And I think it really is in a twofold aspect. One being the fact that this series is phenomenally presented. The music, the action scenes, everything are so on point. I just love, yes, a lot of reused music, but the music itself has so much energy and so much emotion in it, and how they play it out in the scenes itself is similar to my love of things like I'll Know a Zero and its use of Sawano Hiroyuki's music. It's just so well presented, and it hits the emotional points, and it hits them so well that it ends up taking the actual scene itself, taking it from a great scene into a phenomenal scene. And yes, while using CGI, the CGI itself in use in action scenes is just downright amazing. These scenes were so great. They had so much impact, so much velocity to the energy of the actual, psychic powers or gunfire or anything like that, and made these scenes great. I was just at the edge of my seat watching some of these scenes. They were just so well put together. Watching 2 psychic users going at each other, watching a string of bullets coming out from a bunch of soldiers to somebody, it was just so well done. But the story itself, like I said, is the other big part of this, and I just really was invested in the series. And I think a lot of that has to do with just a very tried and true story. This is a story that's been around for a long time. It was actually originally produced as a 1992 drama that eventually became an anime adaptation, and then another adaptation with this particular series. And it's a series that I really enjoyed, and I think a lot of that has to do with its ability to really kind of keep that mystery at play while slowly revealing its cards. This is one of those series that does really well in not just keeping those cards away from you and constantly going, well, what's going to happen? Well, what's going on? Well, what's going on? It's slowly piecemealing the story and slowly revealing these aspects of the history of this world as it goes along. Like having these characters meeting at some location, and then up on this big screen on a building, you hear this reporter talking about this World War III and talking about the missing memories that people have. And again, it hits you with that aspect of like, well, why does a lot of people not remember this time period? What exactly happened in the past? Like I said, it gives you that It gives you that question mark, but then it doesn't really reveal everything about it. And again, later on, it'll slowly reveal that aspect to you. And I think that ability for the writer to really kind of slowly piecemeal that out was one of the reasons that kept me captivated and wanting to know more. Well, why is this mysterious girl suddenly in a photo in some random person's home? Well, there's a purpose for it. And at first you wonder, why is that person in that photo? And you want to know more, and then eventually it'll tell it to you. It doesn't try to show you everything, but at the same time, it slowly reveals it so that it keeps you coming for more and more. Now, I think probably the cast would be, if I had to say something was a negative of the series, that would probably be it. I think with such a large cast, specifically 2 sets of siblings that are constantly the focus of the series, it does make it a struggle with really trying to get a lot of depth out of every single character. But I think the point that I would really make there is that the point of the story isn't about each individual character and having some deep backstory. It's really more about the world itself and how it affects the character in the present time. This isn't a story to really get into deep diving into everybody's history to get their motivations. It's really about showing how they react to the current time and what is ahead of them. But that's not to discredit the characters themselves. I mean, they all had their purpose to really play in the story. Kimide, who seemed like a very kind of manipulative girl, getting into her story and why she is kind of focused so much on Yuya. Getting into Mikuriya and why he is molding the Kirihara brothers so much. The Kirihara brothers and their purpose in this world itself, what their goal is, what they're actually there for, and why Mikuriya basically told them that the world would accept them despite them not. Even some murderous child that they get into at some point has a strong purpose of the story itself, despite me constantly yelling, get rid of this boy already. It's not gonna work out for him. Overall, it's just a great story. Just so many facets to it, so many time periods it's getting into, just the world itself, the laws, the restrictions that the world had put on. I mean, they even had this one point where they actually go to the SWE facility, and there's this like wall of shame there, where it has just all these open window cells that are just filled with old ladies, children, people that just, you know, a child was told a bedtime story that had some sort of supernatural abilities in the story. An old lady that was praying at an altar. This sort of strong hand that this government has on any sort of thoughts, belief, or sign of anything supernatural was this world that it created that was very, very hard to watch, but at the same time, create a struggle these characters can really get involved with, and that, for me as a viewer, can get involved with as well. But that's my thoughts on Nighthead 2041. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the series if you're going to check it out. Subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.